you don't have an effective way to assess people, then you're not going to really accomplish, you're going to have, bad hires, and you jeopardize your business. For a company to win and to succeed and to endure, if you don't have the right team, you will not make it. So many times when I read job descriptions, they're all about description, but they're not about the function. Function is what attracts people, not descriptions. You don't just move, you strategize. What's the goal, and then what's the best way to move this vision. And one of the things that vision movers struggle with is implementation.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now let's get it started. Hey guys, this is going to be awesome. Welcome to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins, and I am your host today. And I have in my studio Marci Schnap. Marci, how are you today?
I'm great, Rick. Thanks so much for having me on the Pursuit of Winning, because I like to win.
There it is right there. There it is right there. I'm so thrilled. I love doing personality assessments and that sort of thing. And so I've done them for like years and years and years, and a whole bunch of them. And I had a little fun with it. I learned a little bit about myself, play well with others and all that good stuff. But anyhow, Marci, I think it's really important for our guests to understand what they're going to get out of this episode today. What do you want to make sure that they walk away with?
Make sure that people walk away with a new understanding or a new paradigm of themselves and other people, and a new idea of what teamwork really is.
I love that. It's always about getting the right people on the bus. I mean, it's live and die by their people. If we get a better understanding of our people and how they function, all that good stuff, we can do better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for a company to win and to succeed and to endure, if you don't have the right team, you will not make it. And, and if you don't have the right partners, if the business is a partnership, which I've seen a lot of partnerships fall apart because the partners couldn't get along. So if you don't have the right suppliers, it's not always about, people think, oh, a team, like, who am I going to hire? Who am I going to hire? But a lot of times you have independent contractors or suppliers. You work with outside professionals, advisors, coaches, accountants, lawyers, technology people, security people, you name it. And again, they can make or break your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've done is we've told everybody about what you do, but we didn't tell people what you do yet. So why don't you give us a little background? What do you do? Tell us about your product and how it's going to help companies win.
Okay. Well, I do a lot, but I'm going to distill it down. I help companies, business owners, stakeholders. I help them understand themselves in the context of a team. And then and once they understand themselves in the context of a team, then I help them to build out their teams, to identify the best people to be on their teams, to hire the best people, to keep the best people, to develop the best talent so that their businesses can flourish and win. That's the kind of the nuts and bolts of what I do.
Well, cool. And why did you get into this? I mean, this seems pretty tough.
That's a great question. So how and why? So I really got into it when I was 17. And the why is because my grandfather had passed away and my grandmother was a widower. And I'm the oldest grandchild and granddaughter. And every day after school, my grandmother was inviting me over to her apartment. She didn't live far from me, saying, Marci, I made ABC, and it was always something really good, like I made a new cake, or I made some cookies, or I made a pot roast, or whatever she was cooking up. And I was going, for a while. And then I said, you know what? And I don't even know how, it came to me. But I said, you know what, Nanny, you need a job because I come over every single day after school because I have homework and I have friends and really love you and all that. And also I think I'm going to, put on a lot of weight. And I said, I think you need a job. I think, you'll make some friends and something to do. And she said, no, I've never had a job. I never had to work. I think she was really scared. And I knew she also needed the extra money. I mean, she wasn't like a rich widower. So I said, well, let me take you around the shopping mall. Let's see what we could do. And I walked her around the shopping mall that was across the street from her house. And I went into a few of the shops that I thought would be the best kind of shops where she would fit in. And one of the shops was a shop for plus size ladies. And my grandmother wasn't like plus size applies. Maybe she was, I don't know. But she was older and she was very, not threatening, especially when a woman is shopping. I don't even think they call them that anymore. But when a woman is shopping one of those stores, we can be self-conscious, and we don't want like really skinny girls to serve us. We want somebody that we don't feel in competition with and things like that. And I think things are changing. We probably don't feel like that anymore, but back then. So long story short, I helped her fill out the applications. I talked to the sales manager. She got the job and she was the top selling sales lady for a couple of years. They did retire her, I think, when she hit the age that they had to retire her by their company policies. But at the time she worked there, she brought in lunch for everybody. When she made herself lunch, she made lunch for everybody. She made a ton of friends. She was friends with other people in the mall. She loved it. She had extra money. So I really recognize that from a young age, how important it is for women, because I'm a woman, that for us to work and how important it is to have our own money and to have, a life outside of, our immediate families, all those things. And so that's the why. I think then fast forward a few years after, I recognize still the challenges that I had in my own career and the challenges that my friends were having. And I thought, about what I could do and how I could do things better and differently. And then I created my first recruiting firm called New Media Links. And that was when the internet was brand new. It gave me a great opportunity to showcase what I could do. And I've always been a founder, I guess, at heart, which is my Collab Genius role as a founder. So that's the how and why.
Cool. And so now you have Collab Genius. Tell us about that.
So Collab Genius is accumulation of about 25 years of work. 10 plus years of working, owning New Media Links and growing that company and recruiting without any kind of assessment, just having people in for interviews, obviously having a process. And then after about 10 plus, a little over 10 years, I thought that maybe this is kind of coming to an end, that I've reached kind of what I can do. And then I sort of went on a quest to see what else I could do. And that's when I met a behavioral scientist who had this technology, and I decided to do a ton of research about what was on the market and how people were using it, all the things around that. And then after a little while of doing that research, I decided that I wanted to use the technology. So I used it in my practice. I made a pivot. I changed my company name to Team Quest Advisors. And that's when I really got into building teams and consulting, working and coaching. As I did that for about 10 years, then the opportunity came up to acquire the technology, and I did. And then I pivoted again and changed the name to Collab Genius, because I think that really the genius in each of us comes out when we're connected to each other and when we are, brainstorming or just even on a podcast like this. Rick, you asking me these questions, I really feel like, wow, you can see the smile on my face. I feel like, wow, my genius can come out. If I'm sitting alone in my office, typing away or reading something, I'm not really jazzed and thinking my genius is coming out. Right. And I think, from everyone that I've worked with over the years and spoken to, I think they feel similarly. Maybe Rick, you could tell me, does that resonate with you when you're working? Do you feel like that? That, when you collaborate, your genius really comes through?
Yeah, absolutely. I love because I'm one of those people, I'll just put ideas out there and then getting other people to just like kind of feed into those ideas and just going back and forth and just building something that's just so much better than, what could have come out of my head. I love that. Brainstorming sessions. Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
That's exactly it. And I think it resonates. And so hence Collab Genius was born.
Now, when I spoke to you, by my understanding, I was saying that it was kind of like a personality test or something along those lines. Can you give us a little bit of clarity, a little bit of separation, between like, the typical, personality test that we do, maybe the MBTI or something like that versus, or the Colby, versus what you're doing?
Certainly. So Collab Genius's role-based assessment is not a personality test, and it's not derived from any of the data that personality tests are derived from. And actually, it's not a test at all. And so there's no pass or failure. It is an assessment, and it's an assessment that measures how a person works in a team. So the behavioral scientists developed 10 needs, universal team needs, and these are roles. And most of us fill one, maybe two, some exceptional people fill 3 roles. And so what it assesses when we go through and answer the questions it looks at what role we're choosing. That's why it's called role-based assessment. So are we choosing to be a leader? Are we choosing to be somebody who, follows a lead? Are we choosing someone who is an explorer, looks to explore? Are we choosing something that is somebody that wants to divide resources for a team? So there are 10 universal roles. So it's very different than anything else that anyone's ever done or anything else on the market. And it's not even really questions. It's movie scenarios. And there are 10 different movie scenarios. So Rick, because you went through it, there's 10 different movie scenarios. And you read through the movie scenario. It's not very long, a couple sentences. You read through the movie scenario, and then you choose what role you would play in the movie, what role you would least to play, what role you think other people would select you for, and what role other people would not select you for. So it measures, what role you would what role you best would fill. And then also it looks at what you're not interested in doing, because none of it, we all have things that we don't like to do. And when, if we're given a choice to do anything with no parameters, what would we choose?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I remember when we talked about it, how, you described it as, different movie scenes. And, it was interesting kind of working my way through it. And like you said, it was better when, I took my time and, just really, really thought through. And I tend to be that, okay, let's get stuff done kind of person. And so that was, that was interesting to work through, but it was, but the results they were very revealing, for me in terms of my role on the team. And it made sense. It made sense where, I could see, okay, I don't do these sorts of things really well, but these other things I did well. Can you give our audience a little bit of that story about my experience with that, or not my experience, but my results?
Certainly. When we've talked, so your results, you were a vision mover. And that's actually my report as well. I'm also a vision mover. And so that moving part, I totally get that. Like, let's get through this. Let's get it done. Let's move it. Let me help you with your vision. Let's move your vision. Let's move mine. Let's collaborate and move together. So what was really interesting is when we talked, you said that, and vision movers are typically strategic. You don't just move, you strategize, what's the goal? And then what's the best way to move this vision? And one of the things that vision movers struggle with is sometimes when we called upon to do the implementation, that's cross the T's and dot the I's. In fairness to us, we're not all that interested. We like to do the strategy. We definitely want to oversee it and make sure that whoever is crossing the T's and dotting the I's are doing it according to the strategy, because that's part of it. We want to see the goal achieved. And so that's, again, a team. And that's what we need a team for. And a lot of times, and this is what, I've recognized in myself and my clients, we tend to work with people who are like us, because we start having an interview or a conversation. We're both on the same page and we think, wow, this is great. But then when it comes to teamwork, we're too close to the kitchen. We both want to move the vision, and nobody's crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And then Mayday, we have a problem. So what this process is about taking a step back and saying, okay, I am a great vision mover. I need to find an action mover to work with me. Now, I might not gel as much with an action mover as I would with another vision mover, but I recognize that diversity is the key, role diversity, that I need to work with someone who isn't exactly like myself. And so, an action mover, they might take a couple of actions before you told them to give them the go ahead. And that might be a slight inconvenience, but understanding that they are an action mover and where they're coming from and knowing how to collaborate with them, you can discuss it. And you can say, hey, I value you. I need you to do these actions, but just, maybe you can wait till I'm completely ready. And then when you explain it, then that action mover is like, yeah, okay, I get that. He or she's going to let me do my action because that's what I really want to do. But I'm just going to wait till their plan is perfectly cooked for me and I know exactly what actions to take. And I'm going to trust because they're a vision mover. And so it's having that understanding of teamwork and being able to then meet people where they are, what role they are, and connect and adapt and achieve.
So in taking that, how do you build out a team from there? I mean, it's like, I don't know, like puzzle pieces, I guess. How
Yeah.
does that work?
I mean, it's hard. If anyone's watched, and I'm gonna maybe date myself again, if anyone's watched Moneyball, with Brad Pitt. So, how did they turn that team around? Well, they used data and they didn't hire, didn't go for the most popular players or even the most popular decisions. And as the GM, he listened to, I forget the fellow's name, but who gave him the data, and he made decisions, and he had to trust the process. And that's really how you build a team. You trust this process, and you understand, the first thing in building a team is knowing yourself, knowing what your strengths are, but also what your limitations are. I don't even believe in weaknesses, because it's not about weaknesses. Nobody can do everything. Nobody can play all the positions on a baseball team at the same time. You can't be pitcher and catcher. You can't. And if you think you can, you really have a problem, and you won't ever grow your business. You won't have a team. You won't really have much of a career if you think you can be catcher or pitcher. So how you build a team, you first assess yourself, and then you put together a strategy, and then you identify people using an objective measure like this role-based assessment to identify people who are fits for the positions or the jobs on your team that you need done.
So you kind of identify how do you get to people, or how do you identify those people when you're building that team?
That's a great question. Well, this is where my recruiting background comes in, really helpful. So there's a couple things. So we use role-based attraction. So when I'm recruiting for a client, I'm using the role-based language that is in the Collab Genius role-based assessment methodology. So I'm using a language to attract. So if I'm looking for an action mover, I'm going to really emphasize the action-oriented part of my position description. And I'm going to describe the function. So many times when I read job descriptions, they're all about description, but they're not about the function. Descriptions don't, we really have function is what attracts people, not descriptions. Oh, and if the description is attracting people, then that's kind of a superficial attraction. So how do you recruit? So you need to create a function of this position or job, and then you need to use role-based attraction. So there's specific language so that we attract people who would be best suited for the position. And then we also, for my clients who are using role-based assessment, it's really easy because we have a template. We have the team plotted out on a team target, and we can show somebody. So Rick, if I was recruiting you and you're a vision mover and I need a vision mover for the team, I'd pull out my team target and I'd show you, okay, Rick, we have an action mover and we have a founder, and the founder has this vision. She wants the company to hit X in the next 5 years, and she wants to open up whatever it is. And we say, okay, we need somebody to help her move that vision and to throw the ball to our action mover who's ready. Yeah. And so that's how I would recruit you. And you would say, hey, there really is a spot on this team, and I am going to have someone to throw the ball. Because the worst thing is when you're a pitcher and you don't have a good catcher.
Yeah.
And why would you leave a job and start a new job, especially like in this climate, or even a project? Because you take on a project, and if you're not successful in the project and the project ends, then you don't have anything really to talk about or to leverage for your next project.
Yeah.
So that's, this is a fast and furious overview of how I do it. I'm happy, outside of this podcast to talk further about it. But that's how I do it. And then obviously, you can leverage, LinkedIn and Indeed and all the job boards. But if you don't have a proper way to assess people, when I say proper, if you don't have an effective way to assess people, then you're not going to really accomplish, you're going to have, bad hires, mistakes. It's going to be very expensive. It's going to be very stressful. And you jeopardize your business and your work.
Yeah.
Your sanity.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me something. I mean, if with the knowledge, so I'm looking from my perspective, with the knowledge that I have, what made me think differently about my personal brand, and how I kind of fit into that team or fit into that puzzle, So what you shared with me is that I work with a founder. I help them crystallize their vision, into something actionable. and then I can hand that off to somebody else to really manage that implementation. And that was really helpful for me.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. I just coached somebody a month ago, and we went through that exact process. He did the assessment. He was applying for a bunch of different jobs. He really wasn't getting any traction. He didn't even get any interviews. And his assessment actually said that he was a vision mover, but he needed an action former to create a specific plan for him to even, for a position. And so that's what, and again, it's not my first role because I'm a vision mover, but I can also play other roles. It's just not my first role. So, but what I did as a coach is I took him through the process of personal branding, and we branded himself, as per his results. We took the verbiage right from his results as a vision mover, and he's a financial advisor, and he's got a lot of experience, and he's helped his clients make millions, and he's helped them save money. He knows about estate planning and taxes, and he's very experienced. He's got all his credentials. But he wasn't positioning himself in that way. Yeah. And after doing the assessment, the first thing he said to me is, like, I really understand how I fit. I feel so much better. I was really feeling dejected. And within a month, he actually got a job offer for a job that he wants, for a job that he wants, that he's really excited for, that the compensation, everything, because he went through this process, and that, and that's the outcome. So I'm really glad you brought that up. It gave me a chance to share that.
For sure.
Thank you.
What comes to mind is, once you get, once you understand, where you are, is there like coaching or something that, one would invest in to say, okay, I want to be better at being a vision mover, or what is that like? Is that what you do, or is that something?
Well, it's really, it's interesting because what's really amazing about the results is it gives you exact bespoke recommendations for you based on how you answered the movie scenarios. So I do sometimes coach on the actual recommendations in the report, but what I've been sharing with my network, and I did a presentation on this, is we can use AI. It's amazing. So we take the coaching suggestions, or I did this for myself. So I took the coaching suggestions on my own results, and a couple of them, I was like, okay, I want to work on this. So I put it into AI, and I said, AI, help me work on this. And it was amazing. So a coach can do that with their client. The client can do it on their own. I mean, it's always nice. Again, it's that genius. It's really nice to work with a coach. Having these results and these reports really takes the experience of working with a coach.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it really crystallized things for me. I was really pleased. Tell me something. Do you have a story about perhaps like a company that had, the wrong people on the bus, so to speak, or in the wrong positions? Right people, wrong positions, or something like that, where you can share how Collab Genius really kind of turn the bus around. I'll stick with that analogy.
Yeah, certainly. Oh, I've got lots. So one big project, the customer was really behind. They were a consultant, and they landed a very big contract, and they had to put together a team of recruiters. It wasn't going so well, and they ended up hiring me. So we assessed the team, that they put together. We identified, who were the right players amongst the team, and maybe who weren't. And he was obvious to my client as well, but he just needed some confirmation, because a lot of times when you're working with people as a stakeholder, you're kind of saying, well, is it me? Did I not give the right instructions? Am I being too impatient? Do I have too high expectations? I mean, all those things, because it's hard to know. But when you have everybody and you give everybody the same assessment, and then you have the different, when you're looking at apples to apples, you could easily recognize that, if for whatever reason, this person isn't the right fit. So we assessed the team, we determined that. And then we did, what I said earlier in our conversation, we went out and we recruited, and we use the assessment to look for roles that match roles of recruiters. For recruiter roles, I mean, and it's not only, and the beauty of this is not only vision mover could be a recruiter or only explorer could be a recruiter. It's a combination of things because the reports really have a lot more information than just the role. So recruiters, explorers make great recruiters because explorers typically go out and look for opportunities. They explore, they research, that they recruit, they bring back resources. Vision movers, vision, there's a few. So we went out and we recruited some recruiters, and we got the project, back on track with the new team in place. And yeah,
That's
so.
awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Like, I can't go into that much detail because and if you hear, I'm like a little, because I'm just trying to think like what I can say and what I can't say, because, a lot of the work that we do is obviously, highly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing what you could share. I think it's helpful. I mean, I think it really makes that practical application. I'm looking at my team and I'm thinking about, okay, how do I assemble a team so I can execute like really, really, how do I build my A team so we go to a company and we can, do things that need to be done. I mean, that's, it's super important to really understand that. So I'm really grateful that what you could share and for allowing me to take the assessment. I mean, I thought that was, I'm really grateful for that.
Well, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. And I think that, this is the most practical thing. This assessment really changed my life. I had a team, and one of the reasons I was looking to navigate away from recruiting, that company knew Media Links, and why I had a plateau, is because, I had a team also, and I was really struggling, to get my team to do what I wanted them to do. And, and it really turned out that, one of the things that my assessment says about me, my results, was that I'm ambitious. And if ambitious people are working with people who are not as ambitious, that is going to create problems. And I didn't really understand that. I mean, I kind of did, you kind of think it does, but until you see it happening and until you have a strategy to get over it, what do you do? What do you do with it? You try to talk to someone and motivate them, but it's very difficult. You really you can motivate, but you need the right tool to motivate first.
Yeah. I like the idea of having like the reason. It's like hard to, just say, hey, you're not fit for our team. But, when you look at it from the perspective of, okay, you would really function much, much better in this other environment because of the outcome of your assessment. It becomes more of a service, to everyone, because everyone gets, in the right role on the right bus, let's say.
Yeah.
I have a lot of value.
It's win-win, it's for sure. There's no point in hanging on and trying to put a round hole in a square peg, there's just, and so we have the technology, we have, the behavioral scientists, the team spent years of research and development on this. So, the tools and technology is here, so we should use it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're running out of time. Real quick question. One of the things I've noticed is, or I suspect, in the next few years, we'll have more what we might call like dynamic teams. So, I might go with one client and have like, a group of 3 people, and then go to another client and have a different, 1 or 2 people, just depending on what the needs of the clients are. Is there or perhaps even look at it from a fractional perspective, is there a good way to make sure or to increase the likelihood of success of that fractional or that team?
Yeah, using this assessment and the team building methodology, absolutely. Yeah, anybody who's in consulting or really any work, before you do anything, you need to assess the situation. But for some reason, when we're dealing with people, we're not always assessing it, or we're not assessing objectively.
Yeah.
And that's not really a good way to do things. And sometimes we're using assessments, but we're not assessing the assessment. if it's actually it's actually giving us the results that actually work. If we think about how many business consulting books there are, how many Tony Robbins there are out there, and how much money we spend improving ourselves, at taking these courses and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And at the end, does it work?
Yeah. No.
it might work temporarily. We come off of it, we're high, we get that raw, but it seldom has lasting or sustainable value.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, you still get the round peg, square hole, scenario. It's almost like, I think it's almost like an organization would have a personality of sorts, and it's like there's certain organizations we might fit into, as a team, and other ones that we might not fit into. That's something I've always, I think as I have more and more birthdays, I can tell with that a little bit more. It's like there's certain types of organizations, personality, cultures that I don't work well with. And there are others where I can get in and really, really thrive and really make an impact on those organizations. So I think, so I think about Collab Genius is like, how do, from a practical perspective, how do you make that work?
Well, that's real. That's a good, that's an interesting observation. I think so. I mean, there's organizations that use Collab Genius and they thrive and it works really well for them. And then there are some that don't. And I think it comes from the top down. In organizations where the people at the top don't want to use the data and they want to just, like, if you look at the movie Moneyball, the coach, he wasn't interested in using this new way. He decided that he wanted whatever player to play, and that, for a while he wasn't listening, and he was just doing what he wanted, and he wasn't winning, but he was doing what he wanted.
Right.
Those organizations, they are what they are. I don't think, in the long run, those, the organizations that don't want to use objective data, where people just want to make decisions. They want to hire somebody based on their personality or some assumptions. I don't know, like they may or may not be successful. But I do know that if an individual, or a group of people have an organization and they want to sustain it and they want to hire, identify the best talent and build winning teams, then those are the companies and the individuals that embrace this new technology. So I like to call them forward-thinking organizations. So, and I work better with forward thinking because I've always been like a forward thinker. Like I'm always thinking like, okay, if I do this today, what's going to happen tomorrow? And without even really realizing it. It's just how I work. When I look back on my career and my personal life, that's what happens. And so I think maybe it's similar to you as a vision mover. When you go into an organization and they give you a clear vision, you move it. And they give you the resources to do your job and let you be you and let you do your job.
Yeah.
Would you say that would be like an organization that you would thrive in? But if you're working for an organization that doesn't have clear vision, doesn't give the resources that you need, that's when you need to get out.
I mean, I don't mean this in any sort of way, but I mean, when an organization has a clear vision of where they're going, it really lets me, let that genius, really lets me, paint. And I love that. I love to be able to, take these ideas and just say, okay, this is how we're going to make it. This is the path and this is what we need. It's really exciting for me. It's really exciting for me. So tell me something. If someone wants to work with you, what's the best way to do that?
So they can contact me through email, Marci with an I at collabgenius.io. They can look me up on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is pretty robust. They can contact me through LinkedIn, through our website. So those are probably the best two ways to get in touch with me.
Awesome. And what I'll do is I'll put that information on your show notes page, so anybody can go there and check that out as well. And you said that you would be willing to give folks a sample assessment. Is that you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So it's not really a sample. I mean, it is, if there are, just like yourself, if there are business owners, coaches, consultants that want to experience the role-based assessment, they want to get their own assessment to see if that this is something that they would like to use in their organization or in their practice, then, that would be okay. I would be able to do that for them.
Okay, cool. And I'll just contact you the same way?
Yeah, they can contact me that way. Yeah. I would ask them to just fill out a short questionnaire to get a little bit of details just about, their interest level and where they're coming from, so that, so that I could set them up for success.
Cool. And you have give you like a testimonial based on the outcome or the experience?
Do I, do I have a testimonial?
No, I said you, and you could have them give you a testimonial
Well, if
on the
anything,
outcome
if
of
they
the
want
experience.
to, by all means, I've got, absolutely. That's always nice. Actually, Rick, I can ask you for one. I don't think I asked you for one, so maybe through LinkedIn, I'll send you a recommendation request.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to. More than happy to. Last question: is there anything you want to leave our audience with before we?
I think, these are really, we're going through some interesting times right now. So I think my grandma always taught me this and it stayed with me, this little saying, and I'll go back to her because I think she's the start of it all. Don't look up, don't look down, just look straight ahead.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
She told me always, she used to say, Marci, there's going to be people that are prettier than you and not as pretty and richer and this and that and smarter and whatever. Don't look up, don't look down, just look straight.
Nice. Nice.
And it served me well.
Good deal. That's how we stay focused. Cool. Hey, folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. Make sure you like, share, hit the bell. We were so grateful for that. And Marci, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me, Rick. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.